This is an I Am Listening exclusive podcast.
Knowing that it's never, and this applies to everybody, it is never just what you do and the impact it has on your carbon footprint and your family. It will have ripples, regardless of whether you see those ripples or not. It will be impacting other people.
Hello and welcome to this Tread Lightly podcast from us at the Rainham Eco Hub. My name is Kayleigh.
And I'm Liz.
And this podcast is where we delve a little bit deeper into those conversations with local everyday heroes that are doing small and impactful changes. We hope that you get as much out of this as me and Liz do, and that you also laugh just as much too. Hello and welcome to this podcast where we get to talk to the amazing Gale at Sustainableish. Gale is an ordinary and knackered mum of two whose life changed when she dragged her family into a year of buying nothing new. That year helped Jen recognise the power that we all have as individuals to make a difference, and the family are still just about talking to her, and they live in Wiltshire, where Jen writes and podcasts about all things sustainable-ish. We get to talk to her about why the ish is so important. We get to fangirl over her, and we also get to thank her for all of her amazing accessible work that she has done in order to inspire us to do the wonderful work that we're doing here in Rainham. We hope that you enjoy this episode. Let us know what you think. Oh my life, this episode I have been so excited for, because we are going to be talking to the amazing Gale from Sustainableish. Would you like to introduce yourself a little bit about who you are, what you do?
That sounds like a super simple question, doesn't it? I'm never quite sure what it is that I do and how to introduce it. When I wrote, I've written a couple of books, and then we got to the end of the book, and like it's just, it's getting ready to be published, and they're like, can you write your bio? And I'm like, what, the author has to write their own bio? I was like, oh, this is horrible. I don't know what to say. And so I always say, like, I'm an ordinary knackered mum of two. And so I'm in Wiltshire in the southwest. I've got two boys who are 15 and 12 now. But my eco-epiphany, which I think is my favourite word, and that I stole from somebody else, that happened when we spent a year buying nothing new. So that was September 2012 we started that, and that was my...
Oh, I thought it was 22. It's buying nothing new in 22, but you'd done it 10 years previously.
So we did. That was our 10-year anniversary. Woohoo, let's try this again and see how much harder it is with older kids and all that sort of thing. So yeah, the original year was September 2012.
And how old were your kids then?
Like 4 and 2, 1.5, something like that.
Okay.
So kind of old enough to be just as excited about, a 50p car from the car boot as they were from, something brand new and in a box and all those sorts of things. So, and kind of old enough to not do as they're told, what toddlers do as they're told, but you know what I mean? Like to go along with it. And I was very aware at the time, like, God, this could be really different with teenagers. So that's why I wanted to do it again.
That's so cool.
It's really cool.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. And you're being really humble, but you have an amazing podcast of your own, Sustainableish, where you are, correct me if I'm wrong, are you on episode 175?
Yeah, just literally this morning editing 176, yeah.
175 podcasts, and they are not just your everyday podcasts. That you get to interview really, really, local everyday people, but also some experts in their field, and explore loads of kind of different areas of environmentalism, from, mums on a school run, running a PTA, to people, working in energy fields and schools, and also you do like a whole spectrum of eco, and you are able to bring it together, and you are really good at asking questions. I'm learning so much from you, because I sometimes when people give you an answer and you're like, okay, let's break this down, let's explain this in a way that I can, people are going to be able to understand it. You're really good at being able to do that. So if you have not listened to Jen's podcast, I would encourage you to do so. And the book that you did is called The Sustainableish Living Guide, Everything You Need to Know to Make Small Changes That Make a Big Difference. And you have literally listed so much stuff. Like the chapters in this book go from zero waste, food, fashion, home, work, school, travel, transport, activism. Like, you've really covered such a huge spectrum of stuff in a really, well, I always say, like, I need things to be like really easy and accessible and digestible, and I can pick this up and it doesn't hurt my head at the end of it. And I think that is I hope that's not being unkind to you. I don't mean it to be.
No,
but
I'm awful at reading non-fiction. Like, I've got so many books that I'm like, I need to read that. I should read that. And I get like half a chapter in, and I just start falling asleep, not because it's boring, but just because I think my brain must be finding it quite hard work. Yeah. So I've started going for audiobooks for non-fiction now, but I really wanted it to be accessible, not to feel like hard work, not to feel like you're being bashed over the head when you're reading it and all that sort of thing. So yeah, hopefully.
No, it's really good. And I just wanted to tell you, because I said we talk about this a lot. We started the Rainham Eco Hub in 2020 during the throes of the first lockdown. And Liz and I had previously spoken about setting up a local platform for kind of having a conversation with other local people around environmental stuff, probably about 6 months before we started, right? And we were talking about it, and I was like, I wonder if there are other people that kind of, want to join in this conversation or whatever. And we never actually did anything about it. And I found you, I come across you, and it was when you did your festival back in 2020. Of course, that was that meant to be face to face, and then because of lockdown you had to...
No, it was in the first lockdown, and it was it was really weird anyway, wasn't it? Like, suddenly, like, oh my God, the lockdown, the kids are at home. And it felt really, once I'd got over the initial kind of shock and trauma and all that sort of thing, and I was like, are we allowed to still talk about the environment? Because obviously everybody's freaking out about this, and it's really immediate and it's really in front of us. And I was suddenly like, oh, are we, like, I didn't know if it was okay to then go, oh, I know you're really worried about this thing, but by the way, there's also still this other thing over here, and everyone be like, ah. And I sort of felt really uncomfortable about it. I wasn't sure, how, if I could still use my voice and all those sorts of things. And then so it was like, as it went on, I was like, I think this is okay. And somebody else sort of in my social media sphere, she did an online festival. I'm trying to think what it was for now. It was something around, businesses and things like that. I was like, God, that's such a good idea. And I was like, oh, do you mind if I like basically steal your idea and use it? And she was like, no, that's fine. And I literally went from, okay, this is the idea. And 2 weeks later, it was like, it was on and it was happening. Wow. And there were 40 speakers, and there were 3,000 people.
You pulled that off in 2 weeks? No, you didn't.
Yeah, like literally me, and then some very, very kind person volunteered to do all the spreadsheets and the logistics and the scheduling and all that sort of thing for me, because that's not my bag at all. Yeah, but I think, I could have taken 3 months and I would have still spent those last final 2 weeks doing so, and then people have said to me, like, are you going to do it again? And I was like, oh, I don't know. I don't think it would be like, when are we ever going to have, fingers crossed, that time again, where people have got a week with nothing to do? Yeah. Like, they can't go out, then lots of people weren't at work, all those sorts of things, and could literally, if they wanted to, sit all day at a computer and watch all of these events and that sort of thing. And I feel like it was kind of its moment, but it kind of surprised me how it took off. Yeah.
Well, do you ever have you heard this thing when you meet your hero and then sometimes you meet them and then they don't live up to the expectation? Well, meeting you is a little bit like that, except from you've just surpassed any expectation. The fact that you pulled that off in 2 weeks, that I could work on that for 2 years, still would not be able to pull that off. That is absolutely amazing. And it's still on your website now. So if people wanted to go back and revisit, they can still go back. But that was my light bulb moment, that festival. That was my moment where I knew beforehand that I cared enough about the environment that I wanted to do something with it. I knew beforehand that I had Liz and I come together and we both cared, so I had somebody to journey that with, but I didn't ever feel like I could actually do something. Do you know what I mean? Like, I didn't know, and I still don't even know what that is. So it's not like I've arrived at this is what you can do. But
I don't think we ever, well, I'm assuming we never do.
No, I don't think we ever do. But like, I just, that was my light bulb moment. And I was texting Liz through one of your talks. I think it might have been Lazy Environmentalist, actually, Amy Matthews. I was listening and I was just like, Liz, you need to watch. Liz was at work. She was like, shut up, I'm trying to work. But I was texting, I was like, this is so good. It's so amazing. And it kind kind of spurred us on, and you had friends that had already set up some sort of like local platform. So we just went, let's just wing it.
Should we try it? We might find a couple of, maybe 20, 30 people might want to join us, and we could talk about eco stuff in lockdown.
And now we've got a really, really nice community that actually really was already existent. There were already groups that were working in our town, and I think all we've been able to do is just pull them all together in a pub once a month, and
that's totally the best place to do it.
The best thing to do, isn't it? But kind of like organise them in the sense of like just bringing people together and then just helping people like network and connect and kind of learn from each other. And we're just realising that locally we've got so many people that have got so many skills and so many gifts, and they're desperate to use them. They just need somebody to ask. And I guess I never get bored of meeting new people and learning what their skills are and stuff. So being able to have somebody like you, where you have got a whole plethora of kind of like, I want to say resources, because that they're able to kind of like dip in and learn from. That's, you know, if somebody's just dipping their toe into this conversation for the first time, you are a great landing spot for people to just kind of go, oh, let's see what this is about then. And it's so gentle and it's so lovely.
That's so kind of you to say that, and kind of reassuring, because the deeper you get into this, I guess, it's one of those, you know, the more you do, the more you realise there is to do, and all those sorts of things. And not often, but I do get criticised for the fact that my approach is individual action, my approach is imperfect action. Yeah. And people going, that's not enough. Like it shouldn't all be on the individuals. Individual change will never be enough. Oh my God, how, you know, you can't possibly tell people that they, you know, shouldn't be doing all these really big extreme things and to do it. And I absolutely get that. We absolutely cannot get people from 0 to 100 in 30 seconds. No. Like, we need to meet people where they are. And yes, we want everybody to be much further on than they are, but they're not. And we kind of, so we need to, and my hope is that by making it as easy as and accessible as possible for people to get started, a proportion of them will go on and do amazing things like you guys are doing. And, you know, will go on and set up stuff in their community or do stuff at work or whatever, and start to do that more. I guess you could call that activism, couldn't you? That sort of, you know, outward looking, all that sort of stuff. And there's some people who won't, and that's great, but they will be doing stuff in their own home. And I think it's a natural continuum. But the first step is always the hardest. And if we can't even get people to do, you know, and one of the things that stops people getting started is this idea that I don't want to join Just Stop Oil, and I don't want to have to give up meat, and I don't want to, you know, I can't do this and I can't do that, and these things feel too big and too hard. But okay, you don't want to give up meat, but can you do meat free Monday? And then inevitably people will always, majority of people will carry on and go further. But so yeah, thank you for saying that, because sometimes I'm like, is this the right approach? Am I doing the right thing? Should I be more, it's not even extreme to ask, but you know, like it's hard sometimes when it's just me. And yeah,
I totally hear you. And I think you're spot on. You're not going to win hearts and minds by getting people to come in and listen to all the stuff that they're not doing well. Like, human nature doesn't work like that, where you come and listen to hearing that you're making choices that are damaging the planet. Like, who's gonna even come to the table? And I think kind of what you know, Kayleigh's particularly good at is kind of getting those people to the table in the first place and having it be a safe space to say, I don't really understand, or I find this hard, or this is really difficult, we can't do this. And one of the things that happened when we first set up the hub in lockdown was where people couldn't go to the shops and stuff. They would say, oh, has anyone got a skipping rope, or does anyone want these birthday balloons? And it was really gentle to start with, wasn't it? It was little tiny baby steps where we were going, that's eco.
You was calling it out, but you was calling it out in a good way. You were like, you were making people see the link between what they were doing. And then people go, oh yeah, I've never even thought about that. I mean, nothing else, just that's enough to sow a seed, isn't it? And I think,
I think that's so important to help people recognise that we're very good at pigeonholing each other, aren't we? And pigeonholing ourselves. And so people think, well, I'm not a greenie, so I'm not, you know, I can't do that, or I won't do that because I'm not one of those greenie types over there. But actually, when you say to them, like, tell me 5 things you're already doing that are like good, And everybody will be easily able to list 5 things. And then they're like, oh, maybe I am doing some positive stuff.
Yeah.
And then you're like, and then before you know it, they've got 10, 15, 20, and it starts to just shift. They're like, oh, I am one of the, not necessarily that I have to come and, embrace and go and hug trees and all those sorts of things. But that sort of, we're very tribalist, aren't we? And trying to encourage people to see that like, oh, I can do this stuff. I'm already doing this stuff. That's huge.
Yeah, that change of mindset to recognise that their compassion is
they're already
there.
a part of it.
Yeah. They do really, really care. It's just nobody wants to just feel like from day one that they're failing. And that's where you're really good at allowing people to be like, that's not working for you now, but that's okay. Try this, try that. And I liked even when you did Nothing New in 22 around kind of reducing consumerism. And I followed that really closely. And I've talked about this before. I think you had to go and buy a charger. I think that kind of sticks in my mind.
Did I? Probably.
And it was the fact that you were like, I had to buy a charger, like my laptop died and I need my laptop for work, and just that thing to be like, you can still be doing your best with what you've got, and sometimes it doesn't work. Come back to Kayleigh's vegan sausages conversation.
Oh, my life. Can I tell you about my vegan sausage situation?
Please do.
Non-vegan sausage.
Well, the non-vegan sausage. So I had set myself a challenge for Veganuary, of which I have tried to do for probably 8 years each time. And to be fair, I am a lot more closer to being better than I was previously.
Veganuary is still on my too hard to do list.
It is very hard, and I'd follow that. I mean, they're really good at being able to send you a kind of like what do they send you like a email, like a G you up towards getting to January, and they're like, make sure when January comes, you've already got stuff in your cupboard, you've already got stocked up, you kind of know some stuff, so you haven't got to do a mad dash. Where it comes to 2nd of January, and I am doing a mad dash to Tesco's for lunch, and I just make it too hard. I honestly make it incredibly difficult, and it doesn't need to be. But anyway, I went to Tesco's and I got these sausages. I come back, I cook them. My husband's been a vegetarian for 8 years, and so I'm cooking these sausages, put them in a sandwich. So then I get home, cook these sausages, and then my husband says, oh, they were a bit different. Where'd you get them? I was like, oh, they're one of those like Heck brand things, like they're really nice brands. And I went out and I just checked him. I said to him, I don't know why everybody isn't vegan when they taste that good, because like they were so good. I don't know why everyone's not vegan. Anyway, go out to check the packet. They were real chicken chipolatas. They were absolutely banging. Second day, but I'm an all or nothing girl. So then I was ready to write off the whole of January because I'd screwed up on day 2. But I put my big girl pants on and I just went online and I was like, look, basically I've just sat and munched a bloody chicken sausage sandwich and it was really banging. Please tell me I'm not an awful person. And everyone was just really supportive.
Really nice.
But that's so relatable. Like, I think that is more appealing, more likely to get people on board than you going, I've just absolutely smashed the January, guys. And it was really easy.
Yeah,
and,
so relevant,
Except from there's the second story of that is we just did record.
I did it again.
We did. Well, no, we did. We recorded a podcast of Veganuary, a vegan podcast with a local lady who's amazing and really non-judgmental vegan. She's so good and supportive to us. And I said in this podcast, my daughter was in the room with us, and I said, I can't even remember now the last time I ate meat. And my daughter's like looking at me and I didn't really understand why she was looking at me. We would go downstairs after we finished recording and she went, Mum, you had a bacon sandwich with Harry last week, my son. And I was like, oh yeah, I think I did. Yeah.
I think she called you out on the podcast, if I'm honest.
Did she call me out on the podcast?
I think so.
Did she? What, did I scoot over it?
I don't know. I'm going to have
and
listen
now I'm
back.
out in myself. But I think that the whole point of that is like, yeah, you've kind of got to be real, can't you? Because none of us are perfect, which is why your ish is so important. And I think it's so needed in this space where, like me, I'm an all or nothing person. I feel like if I'm not doing something 100% of the time, then, I just go, oh, what's the point? I've desperately been trying to get rid of plastic in my bathroom. And so just using that as an example, my husband would go and get normal toothpaste. And I'm like, oh, but why can't you use the other one? He's like, I don't like it. It's horrible. And I'm like, oh.
Toothpaste is so hard.
It's so hard. I mean, it is hard. And I kind of just have to go, well, that's okay. That is all right.
And the thing is, like, I I think I would, if it was just me, I would probably put up with it and I would do the toothpaste tabs. And like, they're not great, but I would just get on with it. But like the kids hate them. My husband's not keen. But actually, that's the other thing with the ish, isn't it? Like, even if, so try and pretend that like it was you living on your own and you were doing the toothpaste tabs and you'd be like, I'm smashing this.
Yeah.
Like, but because you live in a household with 3 other people, you think you're failing. But actually, that's still that one person's less toothpaste.
And that's
plastic.
real life, isn't it? Right? I think I say this all the time. Like my house, on a Friday, I'll have like a couple of hours on, like this is housework day, and I'm looking around. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so nice. It'll just stay like this all weekend. And then 5 seconds of my kids coming home, trash, absolute trash. But relating that to the kind of trying to be perfect, that it can't. Real life is real life, and you do have stuff, chucked at you. It is chaotic, and actually, it's about looking at the wins within that and kind of celebrating each of them, which is what you're so good about.
Do you want to live more sustainably, but you just don't know where to start?
Did you, like me, sign up for Veganuary and accidentally buy chicken sausages on day 2?
Does the whole eco thing leave you feeling confused and sometimes overwhelmed? If so, this is the podcast for you.
Remember to check us out on our socials on Facebook and Instagram, the Rainham Eco Hub.
If somebody comes to you, Jen, and says, I don't know anything about this, I'm starting brand new, give me some suggestions. I work full time, I've got a couple of kids, dogs to walk, I've got, hobbies in the evening. What would you say to her?
This is describing her life right now.
Help me, Jen, help me.
For a friend.
Just asking for a friend, what you'd like me to do.
So something like vintage. Like, I think that has completely transformed. So for people who haven't come across it, I think probably vast majority of people will have now. It's a secondhand platform for, I think it started off as just clothes, but like pretty much everything is on there now, isn't it? And I think that has transformed, maybe too strong a word, but possibly not, like how people are sort of access secondhand stuff and maybe even their sort of mindset around it. Because I think for a long time there was a bit of a snobbery about, going into charity shops, but also a stigma for people in sort of lower income sort of communities and things, like not wanting to be seen to be shopping in charity shops because they want to be seen to be able to afford new things and those sorts of things. So, but like I remember I went and got my hair cut at the end of the summer holidays, and the hairdresser, like, she put, let's put people in boxes. She's not in the greenie box. And we were complaining about all the stuff that the kids needed to go back to school. And I said to her, oh, like I've been on Vinted and found loads of stuff. And she went, oh yeah, me too. Oh. And because it's easy, you're not having to spend hours trawling around the charity shops, hoping that the charity shop fairies are shining on you. And it's saving everybody a shed load of money.
Yeah.
So that's that, and she might not be doing it. She's probably not doing it for environmental reasons, but she's doing it because it's cheaper. And so, anything you can do that is just, instead of going on Amazon, go on Vinted, like that. And then if you can't find it, go on Amazon. But like maybe make Vinted your first port of call, rather than just immediately going to Amazon. And I think something like that can be a relatively easy swap. And then you're like, oh my God, it saved me money.
Or makes you money if you sell your stuff.
Yeah, if you're going on and selling stuff. Yeah, definitely. So something like that, I think, is relatively low barrier thing to get into. We talk about food as being like a big impact area, and the conversation is around a lot of the time around vegan and plant-based and things. And that can feel, when you're busy and you've got trying to cook any meal that the kids will eat sometimes just feels like an uphill struggle, doesn't it? Yeah. And then idiot me over here comes in and goes, oh, have you thought about plant-based? No, I haven't. But actually, like, food waste can be a really, it's really impactful. And again, if we can tackle food waste, it will save us money. So I know it's really dull and grown up and all that sort of thing, but doing a meal plan like that will, spending 10 minutes just scribbling down an idea for each meal before you go and do your shopping list, that will save you money, will save you that 5 o'clock dread of, oh, like, what's the tea, Mum? I don't know what's the tea. So those, that will hopefully relieve some of your mental load, will relieve some of your stress, will save you the environmental problem of food waste and save you some money. So there are, I think, lots of things that we can incorporate relatively easily into our existing busy lifestyles that not only are really good planetary things to be doing, but that can have those like co-benefits
I
as well.
love that. That is so good. And that allows that ish to be, kind of celebrated because you're saving money, because you're doing things, like you say, not as well as, but just making switches that are the same. Like, even like, I mean, go on, go, Jen, go.
Well, I was going to say, I'm like super aware that, you know, that person that you described, that person that we can all relate to. And I use the analogy of like juggling, you know, we're just juggling balls, aren't we, constantly as sort of working parents and with busy lives. And then the last thing I want to do is be the dickhead who's like, oh, and here's another ball to juggle that's like save the planet. And it's on fire. Make sure you don't drop that one. And everyone's like, so, you know, trying to make it easy for people. And I think really importantly, if we can, like make it fun. Like you were like, we have our meetings down the pub. Amazing. I'm in. Like, I want to come and
come.
socially. You know, that's much more fun than going, oh, well, we're going to do it at the town hall and you've got to sign this form to come in. And, you know, like,
gone are those days, right, of chairman and secretary of the local eco group. Stuff. We are very against that. Like, there is no hierarchy here in the sense that, like, we're trying to just make people come as they are and do what they can do with what they've got. Yeah. And then it stops it being that you're either in the club or you're not in the club. You just...
Sometimes I'm in the club and sometimes I'm not. And it does depend on, isn't it? Like, you have to have the headspace for it, right? So sometimes I'm like, I'm doing this. And then no one sees me for 3 weeks because I've gone and hidden under my duvet because I just get so overwhelmed. And that's that all or nothing kind of personality trait of mine. But it needs to be easy, accessible, relatable, all of those things. Because otherwise, I mean, it is a huge thing. You touched on that earlier, didn't you? You said it kind of like... some of the stuff feels a bit big and a bit too scary, and I guess it always makes me think when I speak to people, especially for this podcast, I always like asking like the why. Like, for you, why? What is your why? What helps you bring you back when it feels all too overwhelming? What brings you back to that kind of like, why am I actually doing this? Why am I putting myself in this space? Because you're quite vulnerable, really. And you know, you have said that sometimes people, you know, dislike kind of like your stance, and that must be quite, I would imagine, quite tiring, and you kind of have to put a bit of a front on to kind of deal with it sometimes. And what brings you back to go, no, this is why I'm doing it? Why? What is your why?
I love that you've asked that question, because it's like I bang on about it like all the time. Like, start with why, come back to it, keep thinking about that. So that, I guess ultimately, like, an awareness of the potential future, like, and how potentially different, let's put it like that, it could be if we carry on our current trajectory, how that's going to impact not only my kids and, you know, let's be honest, our kids in somewhere like the UK. We're relatively protected in terms of geography. We're relatively protected in terms of wealth. Like, it's going to have an impact in terms of cost of living, in terms of food, in terms of, healthcare, all those sorts of things. But absolutely in no way are my kids going to be impacted in the same way as a family is already being impacted in sub-Saharan Africa or, you know, somewhere like that. So an awareness of the impact on my kids, a kind of like a greater awareness of what is already happening globally but an awareness of what this could be like if we get this right. Like, if we're able to do this and to get this right, this transition could mean fairer societies, less inequality, less air pollution, healthier populations, more connection, more nature, more bright, like, and it could be so amazing. And we're at this, you know, there's times where I'm like, oh my God, I wish I'd been born in the 60s and this wasn't my problem. Do you know what I mean? Like,
totally
other times, other times thinking like, wow, like, how many other generations get this opportunity to have a hugely potential positive impact? And I try and kind of frame it that way.
That's really nice.
But then, you know, on a very personal level, I guess, like I said to my husband the other day, I was like, what am I doing? Like, you know, grand scheme of things, this is absolutely going to make it's not moving the dial, no difference whatsoever. But I think it is that, and I always said when we did our original Year Buying New 10 years ago, and I kept a blog about it, and I was like, if I can just change one person or one person's mindset, or help one person to buy a bit less and all that sort of thing, surely that's worth doing. Like, I know it's not going to change the world, but surely that is worth doing. And then, wow, like hearing your story that you came to the festival and that was what inspired like all the amazing stuff that you guys are doing now. And the knowing that it's never, and this applies to everybody, it is never just what you do and the impact it has on your carbon footprint and your family. It will have ripples, regardless of whether you see those ripples or not. It will be impacting other people. And knowing that, I guess, like there's that phrase, like nothing changes if nothing changes. And so I don't know what I'm doing. Little old me here, like, isn't ever, of course it's never, one person is never going to be enough. And my contribution is tiny. But the other alternative is I go, oh, it's too hard, I can't do it. Well, then I can absolutely guarantee you that nothing's going to change in our household, even just in our household, and any wider ripples are just, so it's that, I think, this idea, and I think once you know, you can't unknow, can you? So you can't just
it's so true though.
Literally, like, you live in our brains, you say the same sentences. It's really, really fascinating. And I love how you frame that in terms of like, if nothing changes, nothing changes. And I remember one of a few social media posts that I've seen said it's only one bottle said 7 billion people. And I'm like, you can't unhear that, can you? Once you've heard that, that's with you forever.
And Jane Goodall's got a lovely quote about a jigsaw, and like, you're a part of a piece of the jigsaw, and it needs millions and millions and millions of pieces. And some of those are big pieces like governments, and some of those are big pieces like enormous businesses. But even if one tiny little piece of a jigsaw is missing and you get to the end and you've lost that piece, it's really chuffing annoying, and the jigsaw's incomplete. Like, so we're all contributing to this bigger picture. And I absolutely get that it, as air quotes, just one person, it feels inconsequential. It feels like, what's the point? I can't make any difference. Like, but exactly that thing, like if we all said that, and all of the changes that we see, that's what I love doing about my podcast, is like, you speak to people and they are just one person, and they've gone and they've done something remarkable. And, you guys, you could say, oh, we're just us, and we're just doing this little thing. Like, absolute crap. You're not. Like, it's enormous what you guys are doing. And it takes bravery and courage and commitment and resilience. And like, to step up and to do that is enormous. And I think that needs celebrating much, much more. And that's kind of what I try and do a little bit on the podcast.
And you're very good at it.
You are very good at it. You make people feel very special, which I think keeps people going, doesn't it? Because you can feel like a bit of a slog sometimes, especially when you don't see those ripples that you talk about.
If you had unlimited resources, a lovely, pretty magic wand, what would your kind of big, for you doing your work, what would be your big thing that you would like to see happen? It's a bit of a big question. No, I do realise that.
That's a really enormous question. And there's so much, isn't there? And you could take that in any direction. One of the things I think I'm learning is about leaning into our own skill sets and the things that we enjoy doing as part of this. Mm-hmm. Because I would be rubbish doing what you guys have done. Like, I'm not very good at getting people together locally and all good, like, but I really enjoy doing this sort of thing and doing the podcast and doing the stuff on social media. And I love presenting, and I love doing carbon literacy training, and I would be really miserable I would find it much harder than I already do, trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. Yeah. And so I think it's really, I'm trying to be kinder to myself rather than beating myself up for like, oh my God, look at what they're doing. That's amazing. You should be doing that. Why aren't you doing that? You should be doing that. And kind of be like, well, I've got my particular skill set and my area, and we'll burn out much more quickly if we try and make ourselves do the things that aren't. And so that isn't an answer to the question.
It is though, God, but I would say well done for that. Honestly, massively well done, because Liz and I are chalk and cheese, right? And Liz has got skills that I don't even want her skills, because her brain, no, in the sense that her brain is so big she knows, she's able to like take information, obtain it, regurgitate. I can't.
She's being too kind to me there. She doesn't want my brain for different reasons.
No, I'm being kind in the sense that your skill set is something that I just couldn't even get my head around it. You're really good at being able to drill down into stuff. And, you know, me and Liz will have conversations with people and I'm over here talking about fairies and Liz is going, no, but really, why are you doing that? You know, you always are able to kind of like really understand situations.
I'm so jealous of the fact that you guys have each other, because I think that is so useful for too weak a word, but like
come join our gang.
Having that can make all the difference, can't it? Because like you said, you have those days or 3 weeks where you just go and run away and hide under the duvet and there's someone else to pick up the baton and to run with it for a little while, or to give you a hug, or to go, this is really hard, isn't it, together. And so, you know, I that would be another thing I would say to people is like find your person or your tribe or that makes it easier.
And we know that we're blessed, and we do recognise that actually coming together is really, really important. And actually, since we've started, you might be pleased to know this, but since we've started, there have been how many hubs?
Oh, about 7, I think now. 6
have started since we have locally in other local towns. And one of the things that we always do when we first connect with them and they say, tell us how you do what you do, we always say, go find a person. Because doing it on your own is great and it's wonderful, and actually you can kind of do your own thing. You haven't got to be considerate of other people. It's a bit like living with somebody, isn't it? You kind of can leave your dirty plates in the sink if you want to. You don't have to worry about someone coming home and moaning. But it is in those times where it is really difficult, you know, we do have each other that we can ring up and go, have you seen this bloody email? Have you seen this? You know, we have got that. And actually that sometimes that spurs us on to kind of, you know, do a bit more, doesn't it? So thanks for recognising that, because we do recognise that we are blessed to have each other, and I think finding your tribe is probably a really big part of the puzzle, you know. So kind of, you know, even if you're not wanting to do things more widely outside of your home, the thing that you've got is a beautiful community on your Facebook where people might not know somebody down their road or in their street or in their school, but they have got somewhere on a social media platform, on a Facebook page, where they can just go, oh, where can I chuck this, or where do I do this, or what's better to clean with this or something. And so, you know, it doesn't have to always physically be somebody that you know in the physical sense. It can just be. And I think,
you know, as well, like your tribe doesn't have to necessarily be an eco group or a green group.
No.
It can be, and I would cast them under the same umbrella, but like a repair cafe or I think this idea of there's a lovely tweet that Catherine Hayhoe sent out, and Catherine Hayhoe, if people haven't come across her, go and find her. She's an amazing, she's a climate scientist, but she's a wonderful climate communicator, and she's got this brilliant TED talk about the most important thing you can do is to help the climate is talk about it. And she sent this tweet out, and it was like, oh, what are the most important things individuals can do, and it was like have a conversation, and then second one I think was join a climate action group. And I use the tweet in my carbon literacy training, and I say to people, when you read that, you'll probably go, no, I'm not a Greenpeace person, I'm not a Friends of the Earth person, I'm not a Just Stop, you know, when I don't fit in any of those things. But like, okay, do you like baking? Yeah, go and make a cake for your local repair cafe. Or go, do you like gardening? Okay, go and so it might be your local allotment group who you can talk to, and all of those things are climate action groups, but we wouldn't necessarily put them under that banner. So it's about that thing about using your skill set, the thing that you love, to connect with people that you're gonna get on with and who will lift you up rather than pull you down.
Yeah.
And I'm super aware that I still haven't answered your what would you do with a magic wand question, because I'm not sure.
It's hard, isn't it? And I don't know how I would fully answer that, because I think it's $1 million question that hasn't got one single answer. So it was a bit unkind for me to ask that. So I'm sorry, but I guess it's kind of, I guess for us, you're kind of like the adult. That might be scary for you, but we kind of look at you like, you know, I really hope that if anything you can take away, I mean, you've given us your time this morning, which we're so grateful for, but I hope that you can take away just something and have it in your pocket, that we are so grateful for people like you, of being so brave and vulnerable, and putting yourself out there and slogging your guts out to kind of make this stuff available to the everyday people. I mean, I have, apart from buying your book, you know, I've accessed all of your work and information for free. You do courses, paid courses, which are on your website, which I would encourage people to do. But ultimately, your festival is still on your website that people are able to get to. That is such a gift that you have been able to give people. And I think it's, I really want you to just know how much we appreciate that. And I know our wider community really appreciate that. So we just want to really thank you for that. That's such
I like your honesty making me feel quite teary because, you know, like you said, this is hard work sometimes and doing it on your own. And sorry, I genuinely am getting quite teary. Somebody said to me the other day that like the negative comments stick like Velcro and the positive ones slip off like Teflon.
Yeah,
like it's, you know, I do get some lovely emails and I do get some nice comments on social media, but sometimes it's just tumbleweed. Like, or, you know, I send out my an email and all I see is unsubscribed. And it's very hard sometimes, like, oh my God, do people even like A try to sell the stuff that's hateful, but then be like, God, do people even want this free stuff? Like, I don't know. Like, is anybody listening to this? Is anybody taking this on board? Is it having the impact that I want it to have, even if it is? And it's never just one person, but even if it is, you know, a single person. And so actually to hear that is enormous. And so thank you so much.
No, thank you for giving us your time. Honestly, I've been really excited for this all week. I've been really annoying and texting Liz and being like, 3 days to go, 2 days to go. It's like Christmas.
Like the Christmas countdown.
Like Christmas
Top of our
countdown,
list
honestly.
is Fangirl with 3 hearts.
Fangirl with 3
Oh.
So thank you so very much. And obviously anybody listening that wants to check out Jen's work is more than welcome to go to your Facebook page, but also your website and book onto some courses, buy the book, borrow it from a friend if you've not got any pennies, and that's absolutely okay. And we hope that you've enjoyed this podcast. And
I really have, and I want to get you guys to come on mine and share what you guys have done and your journey, and because that will inspire so many people.
Thank you so very much. Goodbye for now.
Thanks, Jen.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you for listening to the Rainham Eco Hub's Tread Lightly podcast. If, like us, you're trying to be more sustainable, then like and subscribe to get notified when we release new episodes, or even better, share with your friends and family. Hope you enjoyed today's episode, and thank you for joining us. Stay safe, keep going, and find us on socials. Cheers, guys.
This has been an I Am Listening exclusive podcast. For more information, head over to our website, im-listening.co.uk.